So we're going to go today with the three main things you need to focus on if you have Hashimoto's. Why three? Okay, because there's like 40 triggers. And we have these triggers in some of our presentations. But, sometimes people will just say, hey, listen, I can't do this. I can't do the whole thing that you're trying to tell me to do, and so on and so on. What would you tell me if it could only be two or three things that I needed to do? So if I had to go with two or three things, I would say gluten is like it. It's number one. And some of you are thinking, well, I got off of gluten and it didn't do anything. Well, that's because you got too many other things wrong that you're not able to really sense what's going on. But trust me, gluten has molecular mimicry with your thyroid, which means it's not about being an allergy. It's not about being a sensitivity. You can do all the tests. That's fine. But once you know you have Hashimoto's, you also have a sensitivity to gluten, because gluten in a chemical process called molecular mimicry, which is one of the three different ways that autoimmunity spreads, gluten has metabolites on it that look exactly like metabolites on your thyroid and other tissues too, but we're just talking about thyroid right now. So gluten is out, and I mean it's out. Doesn't mean it's out 6 days a week, and I can eat it on Saturday night. It doesn't mean I can eat it, when I want to, because every now and then, because it can contaminate you and cause thyroid enzymes to flare up for 3 days, 3 weeks, or 3 months, literally, and it just depends on which category you're in. But that's number one. Number two would probably be the triggers, okay? But there's like 40 triggers. But in the end, the triggers translate into, it's about, for all you inflammation guys out there, it's all about inflammation, okay? My massage therapist, when I go in once a month and get a nice massage from this lady who is super, because she's an Ayurvedic practitioner, she says, it's all inflammation, it's all inflammation. So she's all about loading people up with turmeric and resveratrol and CBD oils, which is fine, but it's kind of like a Band-Aid as opposed to going after the triggers. And that's kind of number two. Number two is definitely like inflammation. And there's now that we know of 42 triggers for autoimmune thyroid disease. It can be blood sugar going up and down. It can be small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. It can be food sensitivities. It can be plastics, and on and on and on. And we have these on our in our presentations. I have one presentation on, I think it's the 38 triggers, because at that time there was only 38 triggers. So, and all of those cause inflammation. And then as soon as you get anything that causes inflammation, I said blood sugar going up and down. You don't eat, your blood sugar drops, you get irritable and shaky, you get inflammation. Inflammation increases your cortisol, which is, most of you know, everybody seems to know cortisol today because it's a stress hormone and everybody's stressed, okay? But it also is actually primarily what's called a glucocorticoid, meaning it's a steroid that helps to control your blood sugar. And when it goes up too much, because you're chronically stressed, it causes you to start dumping blood sugar out of your liver, out of your muscles, and so on and so forth. Next thing you know, your blood sugar goes up, and that's highly inflammatory. And then that will do a lot of bad things, and one of the bad things it'll do is it'll cause your thyroid to get fired up. And then anxiety, heart palpitations, panic attacks, tremors, insomnia, hot flashes, those types of things can happen from that mechanism. And then the third one would definitely be stress. When I get done with patients, I try to give them the tools. I don't see patients forever. Okay, I have a very distinct way of going about this, in a sense that most of my patients takes X amount of visits to X amount of visits. There's an end point. And at that end point, that person going through the protocol should know what they need to do to stay well. And then for the most part, the supplements that I will recommend at the end are entirely to create a threshold so that they cannot trigger off their immune response easily, okay, because life's full of stresses. Life's full of stressors. And there's lots of triggers like injuries and surgeries and things that can trigger your immune response. So you want to really have your physiology in good shape so when that happens to you, you don't trigger it. So I go over a few supplements that are great for creating that threshold, making it much harder for them to get a trigger that's going to set them off. And the one thing that I invariably always suggest people take is, in my world, is some sort of an adaptocrine that keeps their stress responses under control, because it's so prevalent, especially today. This is 2022, and so it's kind of stressful out there right now, and has been for the last couple of years. So I recommend people take adaptocrines, again, to build a threshold for that when that stress response goes off, which, by the way, sets off that cortisol I just talked about. When that stress response goes off, it creates a cascade of effects that create inflammatory responses, and then back to inflammation attacking your thyroid and so on and so forth. So I usually have them take some sort of an adaptocrine. Those can be like ashwagandha. Some Hashimoto's patients can't take ashwagandha, so if you take it and it makes you worse, stop. Okay, but holy basil, rhodiola, some certain types of eleuthero, ginseng, panax ginseng. So these things, you can take them individually. Some people have capsules. Some companies have capsules that have them all in there. But those are the three things that when I'm asked that question, those are the three things that I can kind of share with people, because there's 40 possible things. I mean, you need to figure out off the gluten for sure. Control the stress for sure. And stress is one of those 42 triggers. So you basically need to go online and look. The triggers are all over the place now online. We have them. I think we have like a 9 or 10 or 11 or 12 pages of here's what the triggers are that you can get online. So that would be the answer to the three things that you should do. Let's say you're going online and maybe you've talked to me and you go, wow, and I don't really want to do that, or I can't do that, or the timing is not right, or who knows, or whatever it's going to be. What advice can you give me? Like the Cliff Notes form, that's the ultimate Cliff Notes form of what to do if you have Hashimoto's, what you need to attack.